Hello, my next level friend. Welcome to another episode of the Artist Next Level podcast. If you missed my episode 141, definitely you gotta check it out. And you can pause this one and go back to that one, or just watch it after this one. It's a really important episode because I talk about really, why I disappeared from my podcast for a while, from this video podcast now that I'm doing on 141 and onward, and why it was important for me to take a break. So it's a really liberating episode. I highly recommend you check it out. And this is kind of a follow-up to that, right? After I talk about why I stopped and the things that I was thinking about, and now thinking about the future as well. So in this episode, I want to share with you a little bit about this idea of looking back as we kind of get to the end of the year, taking the time to stop for a second, look back at what we have done, and really assessing where we are, who we are, and where we're going, as we kind of prepare for the next year, 2019, which, believe it or not, is around the corner. It just hit me because actually today I was at home and my wife said, hey, after dinner, she said, why don't we all go have an ice cream? So that was just a few hours ago. And so we all got in the car with the kids, even with the dog, and we just went to get an ice cream. So that'd be awesome. So we had a little ice cream, and on the way there, she's like, did you realize that we're only like a month away from Christmas time and like a month and a half away from the end of the year? And I was like, wow, really? Is it that fast, that quickly? And, it was like, wow, it just didn't hit me until that moment when she asked the question how close we were to the end of the year. And it's something I've been thinking about, trying to evaluate for the last few weeks, where I have been this year, what things I have done, and what things do I want to do for the future for 2019. Because I don't think it's too early. I think it's actually the perfect time right now before the holiday rush hits to really take some time and say, okay, what do I need to do for 2019? I don't know how many of you remember, the 1st of January of 2018. It seems like it was so far away. And I don't know, did you make some resolutions? Did you make some plans for the year? Did you sit down and maybe wrote some ideas of what you wanted to accomplish? So the big question is, how far did you get? Did you actually accomplish what you wanted to? Or did you forget by mid-February already what you wanted to do? Or maybe you succeeded. Maybe some of you went far and beyond of what you had planned. So it's a good time right now, I think, to stop and take a moment and reflect on that. And I think especially for those of us, as artists, as we are professional artists, it is very important to stop and take a look at our own art career and make an assessment. And what I recommend today, so if you have a little bit of time, take a pen or a pencil, sheet of paper, or you can do it in your phone or your computer. And let's talk a little bit about, how can you assess your career? What areas you might want to take a look at in your own art career to see, where you're at, what did you accomplish this year and where you want to do and where do you want to go, I should say. And also, what things you might want to do differently in 2019. So what I recommend, my friend, is that you take some time and think about, for example, starting with the area of marketing and sales. Think about, so I'm going to talk about the different areas that you might want to think of in terms of your art career. One of them is marketing and sales. Marketing and sales, two kind of things that kind of relate, kind of go together. Marketing and sales. You don't get sales if you don't do marketing. And, if you do marketing, most likely you will get some sales as well. And among also visibility, and you can grow your follow and so on. So you might want to look back at the year 2018 and say, wait a minute, so how did I do in terms of marketing? How did I do in my website? Did I increase, did I improve my website? Did I update my website this year? Maybe some of you completely forgot about that and your website is really out of date. So maybe that's one thing that in 2019 you want to start early on and say, well, I'm going to take some time and really improve on my website. Or maybe some of you this year kind of were in that transition between Facebook and Instagram and kind of feeling which one will be better. One of the things that happens a lot in social media is that things change really fast. Social media is one of those things that changes all the time, all the time. So you have to be kind of on the lookout of what's working, what's new, how the algorithms are changing, so that you can adapt and be smart about your art career. Because here's what happens a lot of times, my friend. I talk to so many artists all the time, both through the gallery and working at the art center, curating shows, and also through my coaching program at the Art Next Level, and just artist friends that I have. And a lot of times, we have these conversations about feeling that you are so busy, like, sir, I'm really busy, but I don't feel like I didn't actually advance much. I feel like I was running around everywhere, but when I look back, it didn't seem like I actually gained much ground. So that's why it's important to step back and say, well, how things have changed. So in the area of marketing, that's very common. It could be very common that you're spending a lot of time in your marketing and you're very busy posting and doing and so on, but you don't feel like you're getting traction. Maybe you feel like you didn't get as many followers, or that your audience did not grow as much as you wanted to, or maybe your mailing list did not grow as you wanted to have grown. So it's important to take some time and assess your activity in the area of marketing. Because at the end of the day, you are the CEO of your art career. As an artist, as a professional artist, if art is not a pastime or a hobby, but really is a profession for you, you gotta take the time to evaluate all these areas. So starting with marketing, how did I do in marketing? How much time am I spending on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or whichever it may be? And is it, what is the end result of that? Should I in 2019 maybe shift my focus? Let's say, for example, I would spend less time on Facebook and more time on Instagram, because Instagram seems to have better traction, easier for people to find you on Instagram, for collectors, for curators, and so on, than in Facebook. Maybe you have right now more followers in Facebook, but if you want to grow for the future, I think you need to put attention on Instagram. So you gotta analyze those things. You gotta look at your time spent versus the results, and make changes, make adjustments as you go, and as you plan for the next year or for the next season in your career. Doesn't matter when you are listening to this podcast or watching this video. So that's an area that I will look at. And for this, I'm going to tell you what I am personally. So personally, when I look back at my marketing, I think I did pretty good. This year, I really made a purpose choice to switch from Facebook to putting a lot of my attention now on Instagram, right? So I still do Facebook, of course, and I'm connected and I share, but really my attention this year was completely, I would say 80% more now on Instagram, and the results are great. I grew my audience on Instagram. I grew the contacts, the conversations. I was very proactive, more conversational on my posts, and I could see the benefits of that. I met so many people through that, and just being more proactive. Now I'm more excited of using the platform. I understand it better. I know it more. I did a lot of reading, a lot of studying this year. I took some courses with some really high-level marketing people, and I learned a lot. So I feel like I'm at the top of the game when it comes to Instagram. So in terms of marketing, I think I did really good. I'm really happy where I was able to get in 2018. Now, as I go into 2019, I'm looking to improve that and fine-tune it, and kind of be more in tune with the time I spend versus the results I get. So it's not only just spending a lot of time, but also figuring out how can I spend that better, doing things at a higher level that will give better results. So that's what I am in terms of marketing. Now, like I said, marketing and sales kind of go together. In terms of sales, you got to look at also, how did you do this year? How much did you sell last year compared maybe to the year before or the year before? How was it for you? How was the sales aspect of your career? Was for you this year? Was it a good one? Was it a so-so, or was it bad? Or maybe you anticipated it was going to be better, maybe it wasn't. So you got to stop and think about, okay, so why maybe I sold more, maybe why I didn't, maybe you were part of a gallery and this year you were not, or maybe vice versa. Maybe you were in more galleries, but you saw less art. There are many variables. So you gotta stop and think about, okay, in terms of sales, what I am, compared to previous years, what did I do different this year? And then make adjustments for the year that's coming, right? What can I do so that I can facilitate sales? What can I do so that collectors can find me? What can I do so that my price points, are strategically at the right spot? What can I do so that I can connect with more people, so that I can reduce friction, and all these things that at the end of the day equate to sales. In my personal career, so all these things, again, I'm gonna share with you what I am. So personally, I did less sales this year than I did the previous year. And in my case, as I look back, there's a specific reason why. This year, I really focus on exposure a lot. I actually, this year, when I look at the exposure, which I'm going to talk about in a second, for me was the big focus for me in 2018. And this I knew it was coming, so I was planning already on that. I had already adjusted my budget because I knew I was going to get less sales this year because I was going to spend a lot of time traveling, a lot of time sending work. I had a solo show in a museum in Romania at the beginning of the year, and then that show traveled to another museum in Italy, and then I had another museum show that went to the Museum of the City of Cuernavaca in Mexico, and then that show traveled to the Museum of Querétaro in Mexico, and then I just closed, literally I just today took down a show that I had, solo show here in the city of Chicago in a local gallery. So, there were 5 big shows with a lot of work being out and being managed and being part of these shows, and because we're traveling shows, the work had to stay together and so on. So I knew that this year's sales for me were going to be low, lower than previous years, lower than what, so I was already anticipating that. So when I look back at 2018, I took a hit in terms of sales because I was really busy doing all the things. I was really busy, with all these shows, and I knew that this was going to happen. So it didn't take me by surprise. So, but at least I understand, what I was. So for me, as I look at 2019, I finished this big season of 2018 where I focused really heavy on the exposure part, so that now in 2019, my focus is going to be different. I have less shows. I have also less international travel plans, at least so far. So, I can then focus, as all this work comes back from the museums, I can focus on the marketing and sales of those 2 bodies of work that are coming back. So strategically, it kind of works well for me because I can look at the work that's coming and I can start thinking about how am I going to market them, how am I going to try to position them to the collectors and to the public for all the year 2019. So that's where I am strategically on my marketing and sales. So think about where you are at. Think about where you're at. Don't let that be just, oh, this just happened. Nothing just happens. Things happen for a reason, and you got to understand those reasons so that you can make changes in your career and so that you can move forward. You can be smart about the choices you make in your career. All right, the next one is exposure. The next line, so you're writing these things down on a piece of paper. You say marketing. You can even do a rating system from 1 to 10. How did I do in marketing this year? Grade yourself. Like if you are in school, grade yourself. You're not going to share this with anybody, so you can be brutally honest. Maybe marketing, you did a 5. Maybe it wasn't that good. Maybe you blew it. That's okay. Tomorrow is a new day, my friend. Tomorrow you can do better. So grade yourself. Maybe sales suck this year. Maybe sales were like down the drain. Again, grade yourself. Maybe the sales were great, and so you can look at, okay, what did I do this year differently that resulted in better sales, so that I can improve on those things that work and really inject more of my energy in the things that work so that it can double my sales for 2019. So think about those things. So now in the area of exposure is about, having your work seen out there, having your work outside of your studio. So to me, exposure is, having the work out of your studio, whether it is in a pop-up shows or big shows or small shows or solo shows or group shows or individual openings or open studios or events or just having the work at a fair, at an art fair or a local salon or a local cafe. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, making the work leave the studio and being out and engaged and in touch with the public. That's what exposure is about. So think about that. How did you do an exposure in 2018? Did you find opportunities to show your work outside of your space? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Rate yourself. Maybe you did really good, so maybe you deserve an 8 or a 9. Maybe it wasn't that good at all, and maybe you are in a 2 or 3. So you gotta look at, okay, what happened? Maybe this year I did not knock in as many doors as I should have. Maybe I forgot to follow up. Maybe, I had contacts and I didn't follow up on those things, so on those leads. Maybe, I didn't network with other people as I should have. So don't be too hard on yourself, but be honest with yourself. And, don't punish yourself, but just plan ahead for the future. Say, okay, maybe in 2019, I need to knock on more doors. Or maybe in 2019, I need to connect with more people or follow up, be better at following up. So if anybody gives me a business card, next day, right away, the next day, I'm going to sit down and drop them an email. Drop them an email really fast. This year, I met a lot of people this year. I met an individual who I met at my gallery who came. We had a great conversation, somebody who was looking for opportunities. And I like the person's work. But this person never followed up, never followed up. We had a great meeting. We had a great conversation. And I kept thinking, the weeks after, here's an artist who came, looking for opportunities. We had a great conversation and never follow up. Maybe the person was expecting for me to take the initiative. But, if that's the person who's looking for opportunities, that's the person who needs to take the initiative, not me. So, how many times that maybe has happened to you where you knock on a door and maybe there was a good welcoming, maybe there were receptive ears, but you didn't follow up. You just left it there. You let that connection get cold. And my friend, when it comes to exposure, follow-up is very important. So maybe that's an area where you need to improve in 2019. Another one that is also very important is organization. So make the next line in your paper or in your computer, next column or next section, put organization. How did you do in organization in 2018? Were you organized? Were you able to get things done because you were organized? Or were you completely chaotic throughout 2018 and things just fell off the wagon, and emails were not answered and contacts were not followed up? And where were you at in terms of your organization? Something very important to look at, because if you are not organized, it's really hard to move ahead in your career. It's really hard to really move forward. There comes a point in your career where you're going to get as far as you are able to manage. And when you get to that top, to that limit, that's it. That's your cap. Unless you get better at organizing yourself, you will not continue to move forward. So you want to think about that. Where are you in your organization? Maybe this is an area where you need help. Maybe you need to call somebody who can help you, or take a course on organization, or use tools. This is 2018, means that we have so many tools at our disposal. You can go and download apps that have reminders, so that have time management tools that you can use. One that I've used a lot, which I have talked plenty of times in my Breakfast with Sergio show, and also here in the podcast, is an app that I use that's called Evernote. I love Evernote. It helps me stay organized. I have what is called a dashboard in my Evernote where I put my thoughts, ideas, anything that needs to get done, soon or later, so I don't forget. Dates of shows, and everything is in my Evernote, and it's my dashboard, right? Allows me to be organized. So rate yourself. Where were you at? I know I did really good on organization myself. However, there were some things that I need to manage better, particularly email. I get bombarded with so much email as time goes by. The more and more email comes because of all the areas that I'm involved in, the curatorial practice, and also the gallery work, and also the educational components, my coaching program for artists, and all these other things, of course, the personal email and friends, so on. So a lot of emails, I felt that I wasn't very good at keeping up with that. So I need to find a better system. I need to get more organized. So that's an area that in 2019 for me is important to see what I can do. Something that we did this year for us here at Inside the Art Next Level is we also hired external help. So we have now a virtual assistant who helps us, right? We got to the point where we say, okay, if we want to continue growing, if we want to continue being able to help more artists through our program, we need help. We need more hands. We need, other set of skills that can come and complement what we do. So this year, we hired a virtual assistant that's helping us a lot with our programs that and our offerings that we have for artists, and that's just been a big help in terms of getting organized. So maybe that's something that maybe you need to contemplate as an artist, where you're at, and maybe you need some help this year. There are great platforms where you can hire people for specific projects, virtual assistants for 10 hours if you just need somebody. Let's say you have artwork archive and you need somebody to just upload all your files and put all that data entry into it, because it's going to take you so much time and you don't have time to do it. You can use a platform like Upwork, Upwork.com, Upwork, so UP in the word work.com, where you can go there, open an account, and you can post a job that you need done, and people from all over the world pretty much can also submit to that to work for you on that particular project. And depends on your budget, you can get some really nice help for that time, that season. So think about your organization, see where you are, see what you need. Another area that you want to look at, which is very important, is the production. In other words, the time in your studio. You need to also look at how you did in 2018. Is that an area that you need to improve in 2019? Did you spend, this is a tough question for us as artists, we have to be honest with ourselves. Did I spend enough time in my studio doing the work I wanted to do? Did I spend enough time in my studio? Am I happy with the quality of the work that came out of my studio? Or did I just kind of barely made it? Or did I rush my work? Did I put too much attention on everything, but I did not put enough attention in my work? You gotta ask those questions and be able to make adjustments for the next year, right? So look at where you're at. Again, don't punish yourself if you didn't do a very good job on scheduling time in your studio. And even if you did schedule the time in the studio, you actually get things done, because you can have all the time scheduled in the studio, but not really do much once you are there. So did you actually get things done? Did you actually were able to produce the quantity and the quality of work that you were anticipating? If not, well, it's time to make adjustments and see how am I going to do for next year. And then the last one, well, my experience with that one, again, because I knew that this year I was doing a lot of traveling and I was really busy doing these solo shows, I knew that my production studio time was going to suffer. It was going to go down. So I was already expecting to get a hit. And it definitely had a hit on my studio practice, where I was not able to be as productive in terms of making work as I was in previous years. So I knew that was coming, and now I'm making adjustments for 2019. And then the last area that you want to look at is your wellness, right? That's the last one that I will look at. I would really recommend you take some time. Is the wellness part. How you feel, your inner self. Did you take care of your inner self, your body, your mind, your soul? What did you do this year to fill up your bucket? What a lot of people say or talk about, filling up your bucket, recharging yourself, re-energizing yourself. How did you do? Did you work yourself to death in 2018 and now you're just scrolling to get to the end of the year? If that's the case, then you need to make some adjustments, right? You need to start the year right, maybe take a break. And I talked about that in the previous episode, how I took a break of this podcast because I was overwhelmed. So now I'm back at it. I feel very energized. I feel great because I was able to take that little moment. So think about yourself, your wellness, your physical energy as well. Are you eating right? Are you eating food that is healthy, that's going to help you live longer and have more energy for your studio, for the things you want to do. That is very important. As we get older, which happens to all of us, nobody's getting younger as far as I know. We're all getting older, so we need to watch out. I myself, I'm already 46, hitting 46 this year pretty soon. So I really gotta think about how my habits, my eating habits, my exercise habits, my sleeping habits, to make sure that I have the energy that I need to be in the studio, to be productive, to make the podcast, to make the videos, to make everything that I do, so that I have enough energy during the day to do the things that I love to do. If I don't feel right, if I don't eat well, if I don't exercise, I will suffer the consequences, and at the end of the day, I will not be happy with the result. So take care of your wellness, my friend, is very, very important. So look at how you did in this year and start planning, what am I going to do different in 2018. Now, one word of advice, and with this I will close this episode. And the word of advice is, you gotta be careful, because you cannot say, okay, I'm going to improve my marketing, I'm going to improve my sales, I'm going to improve my exposure, I'm going to improve my organization, my productivity in the studio, and my wellness. I'm going to do better in all of them. I'm going to spend more time in all of them. The reality, my friend, is that it is impossible to increase all of them at the same time, right? Because you only have certain hours in the day to work with. So you gotta really look at your planning for 2019, so that you don't get hit in a wall, as the year goes by. And you gotta look at, okay, what areas do I really need to improve, and what areas do I need to work smarter, and in what areas may need to pull back a little bit because I am putting more of my energy into others. Let me give you an example. In my case, in my career, because 2018, I spent a lot of time in the category of exposure. That was where 80% of my energy went, in travel, in preparing, in sending shows, managing the shows, coming back, and all that stuff. So I spent a lot of time in exposure. So a lot of the other things kind of had to pull back. Marketing was another big one for me. So I know that as I go into 2019, now exposure is going to take a seat back, and I'm going to put a lot of time in my studio, in my production, because I want to create the next body of work that I'm going to be then pushing in the next 2 to 3 years after 2019. So 2020, 2021, 2022. That's how long, 2 or 3 years, how long it takes me to really do a strong body of work of about 20 pieces or so, that I can then start pushing forward internationally for the things that I want to do in 2021, 22, and 23. So I need to take next year and put a lot of time in my studio. So let's, pushing down the exposure part. And also I need to put a lot more time into the sales aspect, right? Improving my marketing and focusing more on sales, because I have a lot of work that's coming back to my studio from the shows this year that I need to position. I need to create opportunities for that work to enter the marketplace. So that's where I am. That's what I'm adjusting. So I know already, starting 2019, that exposure is not one of those things that I'm going to be knocking on a lot of doors at that point, until I have a new body of work that is ready. Then I'll start knocking on more doors, providing more more things. And sometimes opportunities come your way, so each opportunity has to be evaluated. Is this really something I want to do? Is it going to help me? Is it going to actually improve in the areas where I want to? Or is it going to be a distraction? At this point in my career, I don't need just another show. If I get an invitation for a show, somewhere, I have to evaluate, is this really worth my time and my effort? Or is it just another show? And maybe at this point, thanks but no thanks, because I have right now my focus on other things. So you have to make those decisions as things happen to show up in your career. So my friend, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I believe this is super important, and I think you will be very happy if you take time right now to think about these things, not in January 1st or January 2nd. Don't wait. Start now. Start creating the anticipation that you need to start the year smooth and rolling, and focused and ready to, to get at it with energy, with passion, with momentum, with really happiness of where you're at and where you're going. So I hope this was helpful. And these are the same areas: marketing, exposure, organization, productivity, and wellness. These are the same areas that we have in the Art Next Level program, where we help artists just like you take their art career to the next level. And you can check it out at our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com. We would love to work with you, help you get where you want to be, and improve in the areas that you need help with. So check that out, my friend. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It was really awesome to be here again, and also be here on my video podcast too. And thank you so much, my friends. I hope you enjoy it. Please share it with a friend. Please subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode. Now I'm doing them weekly. Back to that rhythm. So I'm really excited about that. Please share it with your friends, and I will see you in the next episode of The Artist Next Level. Goodbye.